Back to the daily grind with the only free MMA channel that fucking matters, full-time MMA. And not only was Anthony Rumble Johnson in attendance at UFC 214 that had 4 of the top 6 light heavyweights in the world on the card, and Volkan Ozdemir, Jimmy Manuwa, Daniel Cormier, and John Jones, all light heavyweights, all top 6, top 5, and including champion. All of them were on this card, so it's interesting that Anthony Rumble Johnson, retired light heavyweight, who showed up to this card. If you remember, his retirement was surprising. No one really expected his retirement after he lost to Daniel Cormier for the second time. His strategy in the fight was confusing. He went for takedowns on Daniel Cormier and ended up quitting. And that actually matters, because if you listen to what Rumble Johnson had to say in his interview, you could hear the hints of quitter, I want to say, in him. Like, he was talking about, I've never seen a guy not want to lose so bad and stuff, but I'll get into that. It was interesting, but it does sound like Rumble Johnson is angling for a fight with possibly John Jones, which I have to admit, I would love to see that fight. Excuse me, Anthony Rumble Johnson's never been knocked out before, then John Jones has never been knocked out before. John Jones is coming off of a knockout loss over Daniel Cormier, his first finish in a while. Rumble Johnson's coming off of a loss to Daniel Cormier, so both of these guys have history with Daniel Cormier, which ties them together a little bit. The difference is John Jones beat Daniel Cormier twice. Rumble Johnson lost to Daniel Cormier twice. But you have to wonder, how will Anthony Rumble Johnson's knockout power affect John Jones' game plan? Will it be different? Will John Jones just pick Anthony Rumble Johnson apart? I would definitely pick John Jones in the fight, but just Anthony Johnson coming out and talking about it is getting me hyped up for it. So maybe the fans will clamor and this will happen. Anthony Johnson versus John Jones. After Brock Lesnar, before Brock Lesnar, while we wait on Brock Lesnar's return, who knows? But Anthony Johnson, he's positioned himself for a fight, with a title fight with John Jones. Alexander Gustafsson is in the wing, but Anthony Johnson's knocked out Alexander Gustafsson. So if Anthony Johnson steps back up to the plate, what can Gustafsson say? No, that's my title shot. I'll fight Anthony Johnson for it. I don't know. We already seen that fight, and Johnson knocked out Gustafsson. So if Anthony Johnson unretired, he would probably have the nod over Alexander Gustafsson versus John Jones. It's a fresh matchup, and you got to assume John Jones would rather fight the fresh matchup versus a guy that he assumes is a quitter over a guy in Alexander Gustafsson that put him in the hospital. Now, you can say that that's the easier fight in Rumble Johnson, and that might be true, but what's the theme of the UFC in 2017? Most of the champions, not all of them, most of them, they're taking the easiest fight for the largest payday. Michael Bisping accused George St. Pierre of the same thing. We all know why you want to fight me. It's because I'm the easiest fight for a largest payday. Michael Bisping laid it on the table and told that to George St. Pierre, and that's what it's looking like. So John Jones, the same thing with Stipe Miocic. Why is he wanting to fight Brock Lesnar over Stipe Miocic and become the champ? John Jones said, because I've got a better matchup versus Brock Lesnar, and it's a bigger payday. That's the name of the game in the UFC 2017. John Jones has already showed he's willing to take the easier matchup for the bigger payday in Brock Lesnar over Stipe. So, of course, John Jones is going to pick Anthony Johnson over Alexander Gustafsson. But Anthony Johnson's acting like he's not retired. He's acting like he's still selling weed in the weed business, medical marijuana industry. But he's saying a lot of things, as in this article, when he said he wasn't impressed with John Jones. He thinks the game has caught up to John Jones, and I just gotta say, wow. Listen to what Anthony Rumble Johnson had to say. When Ariel Helwani asked him if he was surprised that John Jones knocked out Daniel Cormier, he said, I wasn't surprised at all. I figured he would finish him, but not like that. I figured it would be an elbow to the temple or something, not a head kick. But I think the competition has gotten harder for John Jones, so he can't do the crazy spinning back elbows and all the stuff that he used to do. When he did it, it definitely worked before. But now the competition has gotten a lot smarter and gotten a lot better, so I don't think he can do all of that stuff anymore. Wow, what the fuck, Anthony Rumble Johnson? He just said he thinks the competition has gotten a lot smarter, and he's the same guy that went into his last fight, his retirement fight versus Daniel Cormier, and instead of trying to take Daniel Cormier's head off, he shot for a takedown before he was tired. And yet you're coming out and your case to fight John Jones is that fighters have gotten better and smarter since he's been gone. I just don't understand how that's so contradictory to the thought that you're telling me all fighters have gotten smarter while John Jones has been gone, but you're the same guy that came out here and just looked fucking stupid. He looked stupid. A lot of people would say that he looked stupid trying to take Daniel Cormier down and getting choked out and quitting and all of that stuff twice instead of going for the game plan and trying to knock Cormier out. You can say, oh, he wanted to show a threat of the takedown to open up the strikes. Okay, it didn't work for him in the first fight, and it definitely didn't work for him in the second fight. He went in there, scored a couple takedowns, got choked out, never landed a huge shot that everybody was looking for, and then he retired. So a lot of people are not happy with Rumble Johnson and the way he fought. A lot of people don't think he's been getting smarter as a fighter, yet he's coming out and saying all his fighters have gotten better in Jon Jones' absence, saying Jon Jones is going to be worse now. Even though Jon Jones just came back and looked as good as he's ever looked, he's saying the game caught up to Jon Jones. Anthony Johnson, he's been smoking too much of that weed he's selling. That's got to be what's going on here. Anthony Johnson's been smoking too much of that motherfucking loopy lettuce. He's been inhaling the fumes. He's been hotboxing with some fucking super stoners and shit. Hey, Anthony Johnson, he's been getting high on his own supply if he thinks that the game's caught up to Jon Jones, and he thinks that fighters have been getting smarter while Jon Jones has been getting rusty. He watched the fight with Daniel Cormier. That was a crazy, but this is one thing. He did say he had Daniel Cormier up 2 rounds. A lot of people say it was 1-1. People on Jon Jones' side say Jon Jones was up 2-0. I had it 1-1. But Rumble Johnson said he had a 2-0 for Cormier. Interesting. So you guys see where there's going. There's one more video I'm going to do on Rumble Johnson. He reacted to Daniel Cormier's emotional octagon interview. But I'll get into that in the next I was going to say my next interview. I ain't interviewing nobody yet. I'll get into it in the next video, dude. It is what it is. Hit thumbs up, hit subscribe. Let the haters know what the fuck you think about Anthony Rumble Johnson versus Jon Jones in the comments, dude. So much has changed since I found out my girlfriend was pregnant. For instance, my name, address, and phone number.